Hey, Amy Posner here with video 6 in the content marketing series. And today I'm going to talk about where you can publish content. I've talked about that a little bit throughout, but that's today's focus. Let's talk about where you can submit content. So consider that there's offline and online, right? I mean, people still do read magazines. People still do read trade journals. I mean, so, I have some magazine subscriptions. I read newspapers online every day. I do both. And there's a lot of people who will still read magazines, trade journals, newsletters, and don't underestimate the power of working with people who serve your same audience, but in a different capacity, right? Because, they're putting messaging out. It's always great to have some guest messaging or a time that you don't have to, publish something. I can say, oh, look what this person had to say about it. It delivers some value to my audience, and it's really, it's a really light lift for me. You can publish on Medium. Articles can be published on Medium. You can publish on LinkedIn. And think about, where your audience hangs out, right? I mean, is it LinkedIn? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook? I mean, maybe I post in all of those places to share my content. I don't really hang out in any of them. I'll try and get in and respond to comments, but I don't do that particularly well, but I do it. You can be more strategic, or you can take an approach like I do, but you want to be sure that if you're posting content, you want to get traction. You want to get it seen. Guest posting can be huge. And that's where you can get in front of somebody who has, the same market. Sometimes they're colleagues. Sometimes it's a crossover promotion. They offer something very different than you. Sometimes they offer the same thing. Seek out those opportunities and find out what the parameters are. A lot of people already know what they want from a guest post. You can go to their site, you can find out how to submit, what the length needs to be. Start figuring those into your planning. In print, if you're in business, can you be in Forbes, Inc., Fast Company, Wired, Entrepreneur? One resource that I found is really great for finding publications is an online library database. I can go on. I can get so much reference material. It's kind of insane. But one of the things you can look at is magazines. Like you can even find obscure ones, or their magazines aren't necessarily print publications, but like there's some trade magazines. I remember a number of years ago I wanted to break into copywriting in the wine space. I just thought it would be interesting. Turns out it was not a good vertical market for me, but I went on the library database at home and I found all kinds of things that wine growers and producers read. I had no idea. I'm not in that industry. There were a lot of options. What I did find out is that most people really weren't big users of my service. And so it wasn't a good place to plant myself. I had an interest in it, but the interest wasn't enough to create sustainable business. So I left that behind. But think about that. And what are people reading? I mean, sometimes there are like things that are where members go, but there's often a free front to that. If it's a website where there's content that's posted and shared, forward facing, not behind the scenes, and you can get published there. And that can be really a great traction. Podcasts, really great thing. I mean, you don't have to start your own. You can start being a guest on podcasts. Now, if you plan to do that, I just want to caution you, pay some attention to the podcast that you want to be on. Follow it for a while. Find out, who do they have as guests? What do they talk about? Are you really a fit? Because the worst thing is to go to a podcast, someone who runs podcasts and just burst in and say, I speak on this and you should hear me and I'm great and all of that. No, what they want to know is like, hey, I've been following your podcast for a while. I love the way you talk about sales and marketing. I particularly love that story you told about that trip you took and the person you met, whatever it is. And then you actually have some connection into it. And podcast producers particularly look for that because they get a lot of pitches from people who clearly are not followers and aren't paying attention to their content. And now you're asking them essentially, for a favor. Of course, the favor delivers value to their audience, but they're not going to be interested if they think you're just trying to get in there so you can get seen. That's not their job. And that's not what their platform is for. It's for delivering value. So, follow them and know them before you pitch them. That's really not true on other platforms and in other media, but it's really true with pods. So just be mindful of that before you go off and pitch. Some other good places, summits. There are a lot of great online summits There are great online speaking opportunities. You can even create them yourself in the form of webinars or free webinars, master classes, that sort of thing. But choose these wisely because attendees brand you with the summit that you speak at. So if it's something that's not very well put together, the other speakers are not a good fit either in the quality of what they produce or the kind of content that they're sharing. So just be careful that you end up getting in the right places. Other people's groups. I am often a guest speaker in other people's masterminds, group programs. It doesn't, for me, I'm not looking for business for them because I'd never go into another person's group and try and promote something or sell something, but it's good exposure for me. People get to know who I am. They get to hear how I think. And if that interests them, they can go find me and connect up in a lot of different ways. So, be mindful of that in other people's groups. You want to be really gracious and really careful because, they've put those groups together. People are paying them money. You want to deliver what is appropriate for the group and what that person wants. The thing about it, though, they're very intimate. It's easy to deliver value. And you also have the loaned credibility of that group. If people are paying to be in a group, obviously whoever's running that group is someone they respect. And so if that person brings you in, then they respect you by extension. So that's something to consider. At this point, as I'm recording this, we're just maybe getting out of the pandemic, and maybe we're not because there's a new variant. So I don't know what live will look like and how soon, but speaking live is probably one of the most powerful ways that you can share content because the person who speaks on the stage is an automatic authority. I've done it many times in my career. It has always panned out well for me. And in fact, if you made a goal of promoting your business by speaking at conferences, once conferences are a real thing again, you could probably do a few of those in a year and get all the clients that you ever needed. It can be a really amazing method. It's something I haven't done in recent years. I used that years ago for a business I was building. It was almost all I did. And what was great about it was I got instant credibility wherever I went. And partly because, people are terrified of public speaking. So if you can get over that fear and do it, people revere that as much as whatever it is that you say. So it can be an ideal way to get clients. In fact, I have a friend who's a colleague who that's what he does. Well, that's what he did. I haven't been able to do that in the last couple of years, but he was a conference attendee. Never saw him hurting for work. He would, he'd schmooze. He'd get in, he'd talk to people, tell them what he did. He was never aggressive. He's genuinely interested in people. So he would ask them questions about their business and one thing would lead to another. And obviously he would demonstrate his expertise because he's so sharp. So consider that. We just talked about getting in the right room online and physically in person. Okay. Hope this helps you I hope it stimulates some ideas. In the next video, I will talk about how, if you'd like to be notified when that drops, click the bell. See you next time.